Well, it's that time of year again when Christians of various stripes start to complain about the war on Christmas. And if it isn't Christmas, it's some other effort to marginalize and erase Christianity from the public sphere. But by war on Christmas, what they really mean is the watering down of the festival of Christmas in order to turn it into some sort of secularized silhouette of its former self. For example, the vernacular authoritarians will complain that it's offensive to use phrases like Merry Christmas to people who aren't Christian. Therefore, we have to find some sort of vacuous alternative like Happy Holidays, which is amusingly ironic because the word holiday etymologically literally means holy day, which should give you some indication of its origin. It comes from the fact that the Catholic Church, who invented the calendar we use, the Gregorian calendar named after Pope Gregory, was scattered. They scattered it with holy days of obligation, which are feast days and festival days to celebrate. So if you want to fully vandalize the Christian cultural heritage from our society so that it appears like it just never existed, unfortunately, there's still more work to be done there. And when some Christians complain about this kind of cultural appropriation being directed towards their particular culture, non-Christians of a secular persuasion, as well as some Christians from within, will reply with ridicule and remarks like, well, if you think this is persecution, then you need to learn about real persecution, like places in Nigeria or in the past where people were actually being martyred for their faith. And if your particular persecution isn't comparable to that, then you should stop being such a mollycoddle. This kind of response is a bit absurd, though, especially if you compare it to other possible scenarios where it might apply. So let's say, for example, someone broke into your house and stole a bunch of your possessions, things of true value to you, and naturally you call the police for help. Then the reply to you is something like, you know there are people being murdered out there, right? Unless your situation is at least that bad, stop complaining to us. It's a reprehensible assessment of a victim's experience that says that unless you have suffered the worst out of anyone else, then your suffering, to whatever degree it is measured, it doesn't matter, which is insane. But I would add that Christians actually do have good reason to have an elevated sensitivity to this kind of thing, because it doesn't take much for subtle currents of animosity towards Christians to turn into something far more insidious and terrifying. Take, for example, recent events here in Canada after an unverified report of children's graves in Kamloops turned into this hysterical story about mass graves and genocide committed by the Catholic Church, all of which is not true. And even though the band council, who owns that property now in Kamloops, has refused any independent investigation to come and verify those claims, the voracious desire for it to be true was seen by the fact that the media and everyone listening adopted as quickly as possible the worst case narrative that they could. And in no time at all, Catholic churches from across the country were succumbing to a string of vandalism and arson 68 before the summer was through. And now imagine if that were mosques or synagogues or temples. If just one had been the victim of such hostility, there would be a national outcry and resolutions to prevent it from happening again, with good reason, as there should be. Now imagine 68 such places of worship. It's unimaginable, as it should be. Yet, if it's a church, who cares? But some will say, but those are marginalized groups who need special protections. And I don't disagree with that fact. And without reducing the need to protect minority groups, as a matter of statistical fact, Christians are by far the most persecuted group in the entire world. So, I don't know, that response doesn't really hold up for me either. What it reveals is a double standard that Christians are justified in being wary of, which is why when recent reports of the renovation and restoration project at Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris, which is one of the most sacred shrines in the whole Catholic world, were disclosed, Catholics who are tired of their culture being watered down, appropriated, and vandalized were understandably concerned. And this isn't really something new. From the very beginning, when French politicians were calling this an opportunity to turn the cathedral into something modern and contemporary, architects and designers started sending in their abominable designs that showed no appreciation for the building or the people who use that building and the sensibilities and their desires for its restoration. Somewhat consolingly, those initiatives were met with public outcry and then sidelined as a result. But if you fast forward to the present moment, unfortunately, they're at it again. The Telegraph reports Notre Dame interior faces woke revamp. Critics aghast as plans seen by the Telegraph for Christianity for Dummies trail inside Notre Dame. From the art newspaper, Father Drouin, the director of the Liturgical Institute of Paris, said he was chosen 2 years ago by the Archbishop of Paris, Michel Aupetit, who, by the way, is now resigned in disgrace, to revamp the inner space of the cathedral. He proposes a sound and light trail along the side chapels, providing a fruitful dialogue with contemporary art. Altars in the chapels would also be displaced, and only 4 confessionals maintained on the ground floor. Drouin explained, visitors come for different reasons, most of them from non-Christian or post-Christian cultures. So the chapels, some of which could be renamed after Asia, Africa, and other themes, should display multiple offerings, such as light projections of Bible quotes in foreign languages, including Chinese. It's Notre Dame de Paris turned into Disneyland, claims Paris-based architect Maurice Coulot. It does not make any sense. We are rebuilding the cathedral and the spire as it was with ancient materials like stone, wood, and lead, and now we'll have a theme park for foreign tourists inside. It goes to show that if there is an opportunity to restrict, marginalize, or suppress whatever is uniquely Catholic or Christian, will be seized upon by secularists who want to erase that rich cultural heritage from the story of Western civilization, both from within and without the church, both from secularists who are hostile to everything that is transcendent, and also poser Catholics from within who want to score points with a culture that won't ever recognize those points. This is the thing about secularism. It's always been proposed to us as a kind of tolerant alternative to asserting any particular creed or culture. Yet, it is much more, if not the most intolerant of anything that isn't itself. It imposes one particular creed and one particular culture everywhere it persists, and that creed is secularism, practical atheism, and cultural relativism. That's why in most places we have a single public school system and curriculum which insists on excluding religion, mysticism, and even something like metaphysics in order to cultivate an exclusively materialist and naturalist society. And they are entirely intolerant of any alternative. Like where I live in Alberta, the province of Alberta, which is in Canada, there's this campaign, this lawn sign campaign going on where everybody has signs on their lawns that say, protect public education. But nobody's threatening the existence of public education unless you consider the existence of alternatives to be a threat to public education, in which case your lawn signs should actually say, protect a secularist state-run monopoly on education. What this should tell us is that Catholics and Christians in general have every right to object to attempts to water down and marginalize the thing that is their own cultural heritage and their ability to express it. Imagine if the Taj Mahal was suspiciously burned down, and before the embers were even put out, people were already scrambling to come up with designs that would disfigure it from its Islamic source and turn it into something more compatible with universalist or secularist sensibilities. I would hope that there would be unanimous outrage and resistance to a plan like that, of which I would lend my own voice. But the double standard against Catholicism and Christianity in general is illuminated by what's going on with Notre Dame Cathedral, and it is why Catholics and Christians have every right to have a heightened sensitivity against an insatiable secularist appetite to erase Christianity from the world. And this is especially true considering the fact that Jesus, in giving us the fundamental mission of the church, told us that we are to proclaim the good news. He didn't say that we're supposed to whisper about it in private quarters or that we should apologize if it offends anyone. He said, proclaim it to the world, which is why we as Christians need to develop our backbone and not be afraid to assert what is good, true, and beautiful in the face of what is evil, dishonest, and ugly. Thanks for watching. The reason I can continue making content like this is because of the generous support of my viewers. If you feel called to support this work, then consider joining the Reinforcements, which is my online community. There are multiple tiers, including free access for those who can't help financially but still want to join. You can join up at www.brianholdsworth.ca. Certain levels will also get a free gift basket from Glory and Shine, who is a family-owned Catholic bath and body products company whose beard balm I'm wearing right now. It's like aromatherapy for your face. Even if you don't join, they make amazing products, so check them out at gloryandshine.com. And don't forget to like and subscribe. You don't have to agree with everything I said to get value out of these kinds of conversations, so be sure to subscribe to be edified or challenged. There's value in both.